guys, welcome back. So today we'll be trying out the Loreal Infallible Total Cover Foundation. This is a new part of the Infallible line that just came out. The first foundation that came out was the Pro Glow, which I haven't tried just because it's supposed to be giving you like a glow on your face, which I don't like. I don't like any foundations that has any kind of a shimmer, glow, illumination. It doesn't look good on my skin. The second one was the Pro-matte, which I have, and I love that one. That one's really good. It keeps my face really matte all day, and as far as the wear, as the amount of time that I've wore it, which is about maybe 10 hours, it wore really well. So I like that foundation. So they came out with this one, and this is supposed to be a really full coverage foundation. The wear is also a 24-hour, and on the back it says the finish is natural. It wears up to 24 hours. The coverage is high, and the texture is airlight. Airlight is always good. The color I'll be using today is 305 in natural beige. In the Pro-matte, I use natural beige too, but the numbers are different. That one is a 105. I'm not sure why they have the numbers different, but the name of it is still the same, so I'm hoping it's the same color. I'm also going to be using this Infallible Blend Artist Sponge that came out the same time as this foundation. Normally I use a beauty blender or a Real Techniques Miracle Sponge, and I've recently started using the Silisponge by Molly Cosmetics, and I've been loving that particular sponge, a silicone sponge. I'll go ahead and post a link, and you can go ahead and check out that video that I did on the Silisponge. But yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and try this sponge. Now, nowhere on the box or on the website does it say for me to wet the sponge, so I'm not sure if I'm supposed to be using this wet or dry. So I'm gonna do half my face with it dry, and then half of the other face wet, and we'll see what way is the better way. I'm not sure why it doesn't say anything of, so I'm just thinking maybe it's supposed to be used dry. So yeah, let's go ahead and check this product out. Okay, so the first thing is we'll go ahead and take a look at this. It has a different applicator from the Pro-matte. This one's a little bit more pointy. I kind of like this one a little bit better. I think it's less messy. The other one is a little shorter, and when you go ahead and take out the foundation, it gets all over the edges. So let's see. Oh, it's really thick. It's super thick. See the color. Yeah, I'm hoping the color will be the same like the Pro-matte one that I use. See the texture. It's a very moussey texture. Okay, so let's check out the sponge. It feels like a dry beauty blender. Okay, let's get started. So this is the side I'll be doing with the sponge dry. I like to use my brushes in these areas just because I can get into it. I do it when I use my beauty blender or the other sponge, the Real Techniques. Okay. Let's go ahead and try it. Oh, it's super thick. Right off the bat, with the sponge dry, it's not blending it very well. And as far as the color looks a little lighter than the Pro-matte one that I use, which is the same color but different number. This is the medium beige. Yeah, I'm not liking how it looks. With it dry. it's just not blending in. I think this is supposed to be dampened. So I'm gonna go ahead and dampen this and just do my whole face damp. Okay, I went and dampened the sponge and it doubled in size. So I think this is supposed to be done with the sponge dampened, but they don't say anything on the box. So let me go ahead and do a little bit more. It says to bounce it, which you normally do with the Beauty Blender or the Real Technique sponge. The Silisponge, you kind of smooth it in first and then you kind of bounce it around and it makes this really weird clapping sound to it. But I really like that sponge too. Coverage is really good. I think it's just a little bit too light. I probably could have gone a shade darker in this particular foundation. Just seems lighter than the other one that I used from the Pro-matte one. Let's try the other side. Very beigey. My foundations I use, I tend to pull more on the yellow side. And from what I remember, the Pro-matte one was more of a yellow shade to it. This part is good where you can go and get into these crevices here. It's super thick. It's super thick, but it doesn't feel heavy on your face at this point. It's pretty matte, which I like. I really like matte foundations. Other foundations that I've tried that are dewy and finish, it just makes me look really greasy. Okay, get the neck area. The sponge, even though it's damp, it has this sound to it, kind of like when the sponge was dry. You can hear it moving on your face. Yeah, it's definitely too light for me. Okay, the coverage is pretty good. I like it. At this point, I like it. What I'm gonna go ahead and do is finish up the rest of my makeup and I'll be right back. Okay guys, I'm back. So first of all, I noticed with this foundation, it being a full coverage foundation, it doesn't feel like a full coverage foundation. It's very light on the face. It's not heavy at all. I've used foundation in the past that was as thick as this, you know, the consistency of it. But I think because it's of a moussey texture, it feels really light on your face. I don't even feel it at all. Second of all, the sponge, I really don't care for this sponge. When I was blending it in, it almost felt like it was still dry even though it was damp. There's a sound to it that almost sounds like it was still dry, and it felt like it just didn't feel good. I don't really like how it blended, you know, the foundation. My Beauty Blender and the Real Techniques Miracle Sponge are better choices. Even the Silisponge that I've been using, I would rather use one of those three. And this I paid $7.99. I can get the same sponge, the Real Technique sponge, for $7.99, and I would rather, you know, spend my $7.99 on a sponge that blends better. So I won't be buying this anymore. But as far as the foundation, I really like it because it feels really light. The only problem I have is I think it's just a tad too light for my skin, the color of it. The next one is the 306, and I think it's sand beige. I'm not really sure how that one is because I haven't tried that one, but it is different from the Pro-matte the Pro-matte, I use the same medium beige, but for some reason this one is a little bit more, it goes more towards the beigey gray side of it versus the Pro-matte side. It tends to go more towards the yellow, which I like for my skin. All the foundations I've ever been used and matched with is always more towards the yellow, but I would definitely probably try going up a shade. So I'm gonna go ahead and do a check-in later on this afternoon just to see how this foundation has held up. It's about 7:45 right now. I have a whole bunch of errands that I have to do. It's 2 days before Christmas, so I'm gonna go ahead and brave the crowds, and I'll check in with you guys later. Okay guys, I'm back for the foundation check-in. It's a little after 4 o'clock in the afternoon, so I've had this foundation on just over 8 hours, which is a normal time that I usually wear foundation, between 8 to 10 hours a day. I didn't do any kind of a touch-up at all. Go ahead and take a look and see. It's super oily, right in my T-zone, which is normal for me. I can see my pores. My pores are huge. And my blush, it looks like my blush is very splotchy. So what I'm gonna go ahead and do is I'm gonna take my blotting paper. I normally throughout the day when I wear foundation, I don't add any kind of powder for touch-ups. The only thing I do is I use these E.L.F. Blotting papers just to blot off the excess oil off of my skin. I don't like to add any more powder because it just makes it look a little bit, it makes my skin look a little bit more older. So I just use these blotting papers. So I'm gonna go ahead and blot my skin with the paper, and we can see if it does any kind of a change when it takes off the oil. And I just normally blot usually in my T-zone, because that's where I get all the most of the oil. Okay, it's looking a little bit better. Let's see. Seems like super oily. It didn't take off any of the foundation though, because usually I can tell by using my blotting papers when a foundation transfers, because it usually goes on here. Looking at this, there's no foundation on here, so I guess it's really good it doesn't transfer. Let me see. My pores look a little bit better now that I blotted off the oil. My blush still looks splotchy. So I'm not sure if it's from the foundation or a combination of the foundation and this sponge. I wasn't really pleased with this sponge. I won't be using it again. As far as this goes, it's a really good foundation as far as coverage. It's thick, and the good thing about it is it doesn't feel heavy on your face. The only thing I had a problem with was, of course, the color of it. And just about the pores. It made my pores look big, but it looks better now once I took off the oil. I'm not sure if I'm gonna use this again. I really like the Pro-matte one better than this one, so I'm gonna continue using the Pro-matte one instead of this one. So that's it guys, thanks for watching. If you have any comments, go ahead and put them below, and please don't forget to subscribe, and always remember, age is just a number. Till next time, bye.